Welcome to episode 127 of the World Builder's Anvil. Today's topic, wine, dine, and testing time, aka Session 1 of Enter the Steward, or as I like to call it, Michael, stop whining. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the World Builder's Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. Welcome back. As always, I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
We are back. Thankfully, Michael no longer cares more about feeding the hungry than recording the show, so he's back from his little time off.
Okay, look, you knew that I was not going to be around that weekend. That's not fair.
I know.
All right, but holding it against me that I was working towards solving world hunger is kind of low.
Implicated I had forgotten when I texted you that morning.
I think I may have forgotten that morning. I think I had intended to contact you about it as a reminder, and I didn't. I think that was the case. Maybe.
Yeah, whatever.
That's what I'm going to fall back on.
But as long as we get past this world hunger crap and get back to the show.
We're back to the show.
Which is vitally more important.
Go ahead. There was some. You just made me lose my train of thought, so I don't want to.
Excellent. Check one for Jeffrey. All right.
Jeff just actually made a check mark on the board. If we're going to keep score, I'm going to keep score.
We shouldn't, because that will derail whatever.
Yeah, this is the long-awaited episode. No, leave it up there. You earned it. This is the long-awaited episode where we're actually going to start our testing of Jeff's world through a tabletop role-playing session that we're going to do transparently. So we're gonna share that with you guys as the audience. We're hoping that this is going to be interesting. That's our goal is always to make an interesting episode for you guys. But obviously, if this fails miserably, we'll have to reconvene on whether or not we try for a second time.
Yes, if it fails horribly, you'll know when the follow up sequence he dies in 5 seconds, and I talk about something else.
Right? Yeah, that could work. But we're using an exciting system. You guys should definitely check it out. It's called DeScriptors. It was created by Matthew Bannock, who's a good friend of the show. Mm-hmm. And actually, do you have the website right there? Or you're going to put it in the show notes anyway?
It will be in the show notes. He only has a Facebook group right now from where you can download this. It was a game created for, I believe, WayneCon, if I can read correctly. And essentially, if you've ever been to a convention where they play games, this is a great kind of game for that setting because it can be picked up very easily. One of the reasons I chose the system is it's different than what most people's perception of role-playing games is, which is dice and system heavy. Now, the system is very light.
And obviously, this being an audio medium, us playing a dice-heavy and a numbers-heavy system would not be very fun for the listener.
Yes, you don't get the tension that Michael would get when rolling to make sure he doesn't die.
Yeah.
Because you don't see the results when they come out. You just hear him squeal and giggle like a little girl.
And then cry a lot and, shame. Rinse, repeat. This system is actually quite appropriately named DeScriptors. Literally, I created my character in about, a minute. And that was probably a long amount of time because I actually thought about it for a second. All you need to do is write down 4 adjectives and then a noun descriptor. So the adjectives for my character are intelligent, resourceful, likable, organized, and wine steward is the descriptor because that's what my character is. He's a wine steward. Now, those words are both, the adjectives are both describing the character, but they're also the mechanics of the system.
Yeah. So essentially, one of the tips here for if you're putting a story together here, this is the first time I've ever used the system. And this is the first time Mike's ever played in the system.
Michael,
either one have never played in the system before. So the thing to keep in mind is outline a story the way you would for a book or for an adventure. But the idea is you want a few things where you know what the scene is, sort of your basic room descriptions, which I don't have because Michael threw them away before the show started. And then
I didn't want it too easy for him. I felt, look, if I don't get to have him ahead of time, why should Jeff? So
And then you need the names of characters, and basically you have to create a character for each of them, which, as Michael just explained, takes a minute and a half.
Yeah, it's real short.
And that's if you care. He cared because it's his character. These NPCs, I really don't.
So the thing about those 4 words, though, they describe your character, but them also being part of the mechanics is this. So, like, for instance, one of mine is intelligent. If I want to succeed in a given task, I can choose to use the word intelligent, kind of like spending a mana point you would in like other games, and use the word intelligent in a sentence to describe what's occurring. And if Jeff likes it, he can, because he's the GM, he's running it, he can allow it. And then I have lost the use of the word intelligent until I recharge it. And if he doesn't like it, he can veto it and then just make me fail anyway. And in which case I would still lose the word, in my opinion. Okay. So to recharge the word, I have to tell Jeff, okay, I'm fishing to recharge this word. And I have to use that word in a sentence and in an action. So that's the thing, is that you are, as the player, also describing what's going on. So it's all about language. It's all about playing. It's all about, building the world in talking about it. It's not, numbers heavy. It's not rolling dice and doing a lot of math. It's all about talking the world.
And I also know I have 2 main types of people in my audience. Some are game masters who strictly do role-playing games. Some are authors, and there's definitely some crossover where there are authors who are game masters.
See, I find that funny because I find the majority of my audience are supermodels and actresses. So, we have a weird cross-section.
Well, all of the people who listen to the show would qualify under supermodel.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Well, but the ones that are really hot are listening to me.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing. That's a distinction I wanted to make.
They're just looking at me. Yeah.
Yeah, which is unfortunate for them. It's really,
But impressive seeing they're doing it through an audio podcast.
Touche. Give yourself another score. Jeff's up 2-0. Moving on. So you want to just jump right into this, or we want to talk a little bit about the characters first? I didn't name my character yet. Did you name my character? That's wrong.
Would you like me
no.
to?
No, I don't. Do I have to go with a Gardual thick name, or can I go with a relatively?
You can go with whatever.
All right, you talk, and I'll come up with something.
Okay,
real quick here.
So the official name of the series of stories will be called Enter the Steward, because the wine steward Michael believes is somehow another incarnation of Bruce Lee.
That's not
completely true.
No. I was actually thinking Enzo, but then I realized, isn't that a name of one of the Assassin's Creed characters?
Enzo might be.
I think it might be. I could be wrong. I'm not going to go with that. I had a good friend who passed away a little while ago. I'm going to go with his name. His name was Emil. Emil.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Good. I have to make a mental note not to make fun of your character.
Yeah, don't make that. That would be unkind, because he's a super.
Unkind now that you've
well, that's why I said that, because he's a super nice guy. Well, look, within the context of the game, it's the character's name. So if there's like other characters that don't like him and want to make fun of him, go for it. That's fine.
Yeah, but I can't just be.
But I don't want you to be a jerk about the name, because he's a super nice guy. But you can, within the context of the game, go for it. So if you want to get that out through character, I won't hold it against you.
So for the idea of this game, we will be going in this area of Qïmi, which is obviously spelled Qimi.
Of course. I mean, how else would you spell Qïmi?
Obvious way of spelling it. And then at the heart of it is a castle, Tar Qïmi, essentially the castle of Qïmi, that's proper for Dracum. Even though some of the lazier southern people like to reverse it, and they'd call it Qïmi Tar, but that would.
I don't know what they're thinking.
Oh my goodness.
Southerners,
yeah. Essentially, that is there we're in.
Southern people in Gardual, to be specific.
Michael's character's name, once again, is going to be
Emil. Emil.
Okay, and Emil is the wine steward, which is actually a pretty important position for a peasant within a castle, because you don't drink water in ancient or medieval times in many places. Probably because they live around and pollute within the water, and that is a good way to die. So wine, beer, fermented water is what you drink so you do not die. Now, this isn't exclusively true, but it is largely true in the area that we will be in. He won't go out to the local river and drink because that would be stupid in his mind. But he will get wine. But that makes wine a very important commodity, along with other fermented drinks, which he's probably informally also in charge of getting, even though he wouldn't probably exclusively get those. But he would probably often would double up and have to get other things as well, too.
And other quick important thing to mention about being the wine steward is that I am peasant class. I'm a peasant.
Yes.
I'm not important, but I do live in the castle. So as far as the other peasants go, I'm castle folk. I'm kind of a step above them.
Yeah. So, yeah, the town and castle are separated because the town is exclusively under the auspice of the lords. So normally, if you would live in a county, there would be a council of peasants who would they would make all of the decisions. They would arbitrate disputes. They would make sure people weren't cheating and farming too much or too little of their land and paying their actual correct payment allotment to the local lord. That would be their job. However, if you're in the castle, you fall under the auspice of the steward. And the steward, the chief steward of the castle, his job is to make sure all of the other stewards and all of the people do their jobs. If you watch Downton Abbey, it would be sort of like a butler, except he does not answer the door.
And our chief steward's name is Yoha?
Yoha
Feismer?
Feismer, yeah.
Okay, Yoha Feismer. And Jeff has informed me ahead of time that he's not the kindest of gentlemen. Also, I want to mention, and we probably should have mentioned this off the top, is that while we're going to sit here and do a little tabletop, this is not just for our fun. The benefit that you guys get out of this is the understanding that the purpose of this is that we are testing Jeff's world. Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell the audience and me what you're testing?
Sure.
Or you do? Okay, because I thought you wanted to keep that away from me. Do you want
me to... the details of it, you will not...
Okay, I was going to say, do you want to step out while you share it? Or
no.
Or no. I can plug my ears?
No. Well, the major thing I'm testing is the town itself.
Just see if the town works, or
just see if I have enough of it, if what I have is interesting, and
to include it in the second book, or
it better be.
Is this town will be a mainstay in the second book?
It is the main setting of the second book.
Okay, so we're fleshing out the main setting for the second.
And there are two characters, one in particular that's very important in both books, which I'm testing him out as well. Which is unfortunate, which means he's invincible. But
is it the steward's son?
No.
Okay.
He does not live here. He lives in
So that steward's son is a different steward's son.
A different steward's son.
Which is, if you guys are unaware, and I imagine you're not at this point, the steward's son is the name of Jeff's forthcoming book.
Yes. Which should be out June 10th or the closest Tuesday there to
2017, for those of you that don't know today's date.
And I should probably actually look up what that Tuesday would be, because typically you release media on Tuesday. So it will be the closest Tuesday to that date.
Okay.
All right. The villainous character here will show up in the first book. And this takes place before the first book. So it's sort of okay time frame wise.
Cool.
Now, the flaw being, I don't normally like doing this when running a game where I have characters that are sort of
half structured.
Well, not even half structured, but sort of they will survive.
I can confirm that in any other game, but let's be fair. Let's stop calling this a game. It's
testing.
Let's call this a book test.
Yeah.
Because world test. Because in a regular tabletop session, one of the things really great about Jeff as a GM is that nobody's safe. And I mean that even as his own NPCs. Like if the players figure out a way to kill somebody who he doesn't want to die, he will begrudgingly allow it to happen and then get you back for it in tenfold generally.
I'll get you back for it, but I mean, my job as a game master would be to, can I realign the story? What would be the consequences? Let's say I had a story where there's this great and evil cult leader, and the whole story was he's trying to take over the town, and within 70 minutes, the characters come across him and mug him and kill him in the back alleyway.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, they're merchants. Huh? Who knew they also murder people in the back of the alleyway? But I would have to deal with the consequence of what would happen to his faction. Would it just put up someone new, which is the easy way to do it? which I probably would not do. It would probably be, well, it's going to fragment and maybe cause a different kind of chaos than it was originally going to.
But the reason for mentioning this example is that there are characters in this story that we just can't kill because they are existent in the book. Mm-hmm. So
yes.
So what I'm going to do is try to kill every character I run into to figure out who's in the book.
Well, one of the great things with the DeScriptors is people only die when the story says they die. And unlike other systems that are dice-based, if they fall into a certain range, they die. Which is good because, one, I like to kill Michael over and over again. And I can't just do that here. I could, but...
Well, just really the one time, so... But in a system many times you can and have.
So, if you lose combat in this system, default rule is he wakes up with the only adjective of sore and would lose all of his other adjectives and wanted to get those back and find a way to get rid of sore.
So the really cool thing about this system is basically the system serves the story as opposed to usually the other way around.
Yes, where the system is almost another player in the game.
And in those systems, it's beneficial because that randomness forces you to deal with outcomes. And in this circumstance, your creativity is what is driving outcomes, which we both like a whole hell of a lot.
So a great little game. Little backdrop on where the world is today. There have been an increasing number of orc raids in or around the lands, the dukedom of this area, which is Melnaraz. And because of that, the Duke has been requesting more and more of his supplies to be sent to him. And so in an insular castle like Qïmi, or Tar Qïmi, supplies...
I thought it was Qïmi Tar. Tar Qïmi is how the Southerners call it.
Yeah, but no, Tar Qïmi is how...
That's the appropriate way? I thought it was the other way around.
Which is like why Kleinfar would actually be one of those bad names. So there are people here that call it both ways because you're on the edge of that.
Okay.
And most of
the the right way is Tar Qïmi.
Tar Qïmi is the correct way.
Okay.
Most people...
Because I wouldn't call it the incorrect way.
You would not call it the incorrect way.
But
the peasants of the castle, the higher ones would not.
But I would...
The lower ones and the town ones would call it Qïmi Tar. Because you're in an area where that's becoming prevalent. And probably in a generation or two, the stewards and the lords of the area will call that as well.
I was going to say, but because one of my adjectives is likable, I wouldn't correct people about it because I want to be likable.
You want to be likable. And one of the limitations he placed on his character, which isn't, I don't really think a limitation, is the idea of just because the descriptor has been used and needs to be what the system would call refreshed, to him it's still there and still part of the character, which I think is an important thing to keep in mind is your character's not only the things that are listed, those are the mechanics of the game are the ones that are listed.
So it's not like if I use my resourceful adjective and it's used up for the time being, I can no longer be resourceful or think about things resourcefully. I just don't get to force success by using that word.
Yes.
So
okay.
So just to refresh, intelligent, resourceful, likable, and organized are the adjectives I'm starting with, and it is possible for me to get more. It is possible for me to lose those.
Yes.
So.
And don't worry, I have a wonderful list of adjectives for you.
I'm sure you do. If while playing in the system I lose, I can choose to lose one of my adjectives, and if I do that, I accept failure in a scenario, and the game master, i.e. Jeff, chooses the new adjective that I get. I don't get to choose it. Jeff does. So I know we talked about this before. If I choose to lose one, I feel I'm not losing it altogether. I'm basically using it, and it can still be refreshed. Is that what we agreed?
You can lose an adjective from the story, which is slightly different. Like maybe something becomes something else.
Okay. So I can lose it permanently. But is that how? Is that one way how? If I choose a failure?
No, I don't think if you choose a failure, you lose one at all.
I think I lose one, like I use it.
You use it.
Because that allows me to get another one. So I could go from 4 adjectives to 5 adjectives.
And you'd have 2, I would imagine, not refreshed.
2 not refreshed, the new one and the one that I used.
It wasn't specific on that, but I think that's the way we'll try and play it.
All right.
course, your foe has 74 adjectives.
Of course, my foe has 74. It's only appropriate that he has 70 more than me. I'm much more clever than he is.
Yeah, he needs all the words.
I only need 4. I kill you with intelligence.
I'm intelligent, but I only have 4 words to describe myself.
Wait, I can't use other words? Nope, just those.
You're not smart enough, Mr. Intelligent.
If you were more resourceful, maybe. All right, let's get going.
Let's get going. Okay.
Emil.
So Emil wakes up down in the depths of his den. He is the basement. He is in the wine hall. There's a nice area with an actual bed, which has a couple cross beams of wood and some hay stacked on it. So a pretty fancy bed. An actual dresser that is, well, it's the wine steward's dresser. So as long as he doesn't lose the job, it's like his, where he stores all of his worldly possessions in a sea of big, giant barrels that store wine.
I would imagine there's also probably reasonably sized barrels because I'd have to carry some of them.
There are 2 types of barrels. There are 3 types of devices. So there are smaller barrels, there are glass jars, and then there are barrels that Michael would have to pay people to move in and out.
So those ones, are we talking about like a 50-gallon, 50-gallon drum?
Those are 40, 50-gallon drums.
Not like the big casks, like the ones that they actually make wine in that are huge, like,
Yeah, you do not make wine here. And you're not a winemaker, you're a wine steward.
Okay. There's one other clarification I wanted to make. I will be using my adjectives throughout my language. I will clarify if I'm using it towards a success. So I'll be using them as like reminders that that's what the character is. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And in the course of his daily duties, Emil, am I saying that?
Emil.
Emil, has to go around and make sure that the supply that was there when he went to bed remains there. Would not.
What's there?
The supply.
The supply.
There's probably a certain portion of it that is Duke, and the owner of the castle is a Duke who does not live here. There's probably a section of the wine that is strictly his, and that's probably what you're mainly concerned with. Mm-hmm. There is stuff that is used by everyone else on a day-to-day activity, and might
house wine,
exactly. And that stuff is the majority of the wine, and you probably care less about it, not care less, but care less about it because if it goes bad, well, they'll find out when they drink it. The better stuff, is something that you'd always need to go through and test yourself to ensure that it is not gone bad because you don't serve vinegar to the Duke. Now, like I said, your supply has been largely strained as of recently because the Duke seems to be centralizing his supplies into his main castle, Melnoris, or Guter Melnoris, which is sort of his prime location. And so your supplies are dreadfully strained, and you've been essentially day in, day out
purchasing more.
Okay. However, the good thing is it's normally quiet here. You get a lot of traffic down the Grand Heights Highway, which is probably only a mile or 2 outside of town. And then there's actually a real road that goes from it all the way up to the castle gates, which is kind of the reason the town is important here. This isn't really a strategically important place. So the idea that there are orc raiders maybe 60 miles away at this point.
Which is quite a distance when you've only got foot traffic and horses.
Exactly. But it's still much closer than that you've ever heard in your life. Because really their homelands are the mountains, which are hundreds of miles away. Mm-hmm. So it's a little odd. And there's sort of an underlying paranoia that either a new war is going to start with Ordessa. People are uncertain what's going on. There haven't been rumors of orcs in this area, even close to this area, for years.
I imagine that having to be in the castle and sometimes seen, that I would at least have some clothing that would be appropriate to wear around the castle, like maybe one outfit.
You have probably...
And my reason for asking is I was also, because I'm planning on leaving the castle, I imagine I have something that would be more appropriate for me to be seen around peasants, like a work outfit.
Yeah, you would probably have almost a uniform, a very sort of dark colored. Actually, they used to be dark colored when you were younger. The current steward has changed them all so their color pattern more matches the walls.
Okay.
He didn't like the black because he thought it stuck out. It stuck out too much in the room. So you now have almost a granite kind of gray tunic and pants that you wear and have to upkeep. And you use that as you're doing the servant stuff. And then when you go out, you don't wear that because one, you wouldn't want to waste the wear and tear on normal use. You would probably have another
generic brown outfit.
One or two. Yeah.
So I'm going to wear that today.
Okay.
Now, being that I've woken up in the basement and there's no windows in the basement, I'm intelligent and resourceful and organized. So I'm going to have the ability to make fire right by the bedside so that I can see and get
almost like a lantern,
or a candle, whatever is appropriate for my station. So I'm going to get that lit and get myself dressed, get my day started.
Sure. So you get up, you light the actual lantern because you are a relatively important person,
and I'm doing this in perfect darkness. So
yes,
that's something to be said for that.
Done 1,000 times before. One of your first tasks is to go around and replenish the cloth for the torches that help light the area for when the other people come down to get wine.
To retrieve wine, for the meals.
They don't trip, fall over, die because they're not used to it. You could probably move through most of this area without light because you've lived here for years. And there's been times where there's no lantern.
Yeah. So I have to move out through the darkness.
And probably in your younger days, now that you're older, it's all very routine, most of the work.
And older for anyone who missed the preparatory talk that we had about this on another episode. The character's about 35, roughly.
Yeah. So he's starting to feel his biological clock is starting to go a bit because he's unmarried.
And no family left either.
And you are, I believe we said, the third generation?
Third generation wine steward.
Third generation wine steward in this castle. If he does not have a child, some other heathen
will have to take the job. So gotta find a wife, gotta get a kid. Yeah. Well, many kids. I gotta have lots of kids because children die.
Yeah.
So
very common at this time.
Yes.
Except for your children, of course.
My children won't die. They're what? I'm sorry. They're all gonna die.
Did that come out loud?
It was something about doomed. You said doomed. No, that's not what you said. Okay.
Dune.
Dune. Dune was a great book.
Yeah,
we'll go with that book.
We'll go with book, not movie.
Well, the movie was good too. I like the movie and the miniseries. Moving on. So I've gotten myself dressed. I think I'm going into town because I got to buy more wine. So I got to check everything first, make sure everything looks good for the day. Make sure that is there someone that comes down to see me in the morning to organize what they're going to take for the day, and I can say you're taking this wine and you're taking this wine.
Usually it's one of those things where on your way out you approach the kitchen staff and you tell them, okay, this is the section you go to for today.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Being organized and intelligent and a little paranoid about poisoning and wine ruining, since it's what I am responsible for, I would have a section outside the main area of wine storage where that is always locked. But the section outside, basically I could move a cask or two outside the door onto a shelf or a little stand or whatever, and that is where they can come grab. But the door is locked. They can't get into the main wine storage.
I have to compromise on that one because essentially the space was just never designed that way. You might have a small storage closet area built downstairs where your finer wine is kept at.
Could I not put it in the hall?
The majority of the wine that will get used in this castle will be house wine, not the better wine.
Okay, but I couldn't pull some out for the day and put it in the hall and and have the rest of it locked?
No. What you might do is have a series of shelving units where you have that day's wine moved to.
Okay.
Maybe you even grab a few kitchen staff and say, move the wine from this section up here so you idiots will grab the correct wine today.
Do I have that kind of outlook on the other staff?
That's really your choice.
Okay, I was going to say I wasn't thinking that I would look that way upon others, except maybe the jerkhead steward whom we don't get along.
Who, as you're moving towards the stairs in the basement, you see this fatter, sweating sweating, bald man lumbering down the stairs, looking blank in expression and emotion.
Good morning, Yoha.
Good morning. I have news. How are your stores of wine?
We have plenty for common needs. I mean, I'm going into the town today to place more orders and to pick up more.
The Duke will be here tomorrow. He's bringing a large party. He's making an announcement. You need to have a lot of wine.
Do you know how many he's bringing?
His note said he's bringing a party. So you need to make sure that this room is filled this evening before you go to bed, because he will be here tomorrow with more than one person. And we will not be held short because you've had to give a little wine here or there to the Duke with his wine anyway. So stop your whining and get to it.
I appreciate the information. He said sarcastically, but earnestly.
Johan slowly starts to turn around and stops and looks back and is like, for someone who at times appears competent, you need to work more on your demeanor. You need to be a bit more reserved in your actions, because there are times at which our betters will be here and you need to disappear.
When my betters are present, I shall.
You've never been a good judge of things, so I will allow you to move along, and it needs to be ready for the maximum number of people, which is, I don't know how many, because he did not say, but we need to be ready for any contingency.
It shall be done. Does he really clap at me?
No.
Say that would be great. Okay, so exit the wine steward. Has the Duke ever visited before?
Yes.
Okay.
He'll usually swing by, usually annually.
Generally, how many people do I have to provide for?
Usually
in a day, your average day,
outside of the normal castle folk.
Well, whoever I need to provide for in a general, your average day, like 20 people, 40 people, 80 people.
Probably about 20 people are consistently at the castle.
Okay. So when the Duke comes, what does that number turn into? Usually
it is a small party. Him, his son, his wife died a few years ago, so there are, and he's never remarried, so it's doubtful that, at least that you know of anytime soon, that there's going to be more than those two.
Okay.
Usually he brings his senior advisors with them.
Okay.
And
so we're talking like another 5 to 10 people.
Another 5 to 10 people usually is the most you've ever seen him bring.
Okay. But
this is not where he comes to party.
But he's announced it.
Well, he sent a letter warning saying he's coming here to announce something.
No. I mean, the fact that he sent a letter saying that he's bringing a party, does he normally do that?
He usually sends a letter ahead of time saying he's coming.
Okay. But he's announcing something. So there's probably
different.
Okay.
Than normal. So he's never done that. He'll stop as he's touring through his lands and spend some time here, and then he'll move on. Sometimes, like, one of his magistrates will come out to deal with more serious issues. And there are some knights that will also occasionally come by and deal with local issues if need be. But normally it is mainly the servant class in here.
Okay.
Outside of, a week or two every year.
So that we can skip through the minutia, I'm going to try to do less of that sort of thing, because I realize that we're eating up a lot of time talking about some minutia details. I'm going to assume that it's okay for me to just go buy more wine, and that I have that kind of resources for such thing. Okay, great.
Money.
So
you typically don't pay for stuff.
Well, right.
There's an account, and you had the budget.
Right. You're
not bringing coin with you.
Right. My point is, I'm going to take, whether it be a horse, a donkey, or a cart, or any combination thereof, to go to get more wine.
Okay. Usually you just there's a hand cart, a larger hand cart. You'll typically do that once you know. Like I said, your wine resources have been strapped because you've been sending a lot of stuff to Nonaras already. In a way, it's kind of obnoxious because a lot of your normal types of things, But being a sort of forward thinker when it comes to these things, you do know that at the Little Fish's Inn, you almost always have a stash there as well, too, and not depleted that stash yet.
All right, so I think today's the day.
Yeah.
Two Little Fishes. Little Fishes being a bar and supply house in town owned by Mary Ravens, her husband, and their daughter lives there too. She's a little 8-year-old girl named Sydney.
And the good thing is, normally in the day in a town full of peasants, there is very little activity in a tavern/inn because people have to work to survive. Sometimes the older folk might be there.
And I imagine like festival times, any sort of celebratory time, it would be big.
Once it goes dark, packed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because it's one of the few places.
There's nothing else to do.
For people to come together to do stuff. Yeah. This town's big enough to have people, not big enough to have entertainment outside of things like taverns or inns.
Okay.
So, and sometimes traveling entertainment will come through a lot, but it's not like you have a racetrack or
nothing big.
Official entertainment built into the city.
Any local entertainers occasionally in there? Maybe someone plays a lute or something.
Most of the town folk do one type of thing or another to perform, but it's more of an informal thing. A lot of times it's sort of group singing that happens or takes place.
Okay.
But there's a combination of peasants from all over the town, all to their various level of skill, playing instruments, one-off instruments, sometimes in groups, or sometimes just the whole tavern singing, having a good time.
Oh, so kind of like the hero of Canton, a man they call Jane, that sort of thing.
No,
it would be different. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
to Little Fishes.
Yeah. So as you walk into the Little Fish, Mary is behind the bar, wiping the bar down, as she always does. It's actually one of the few clean places. You can actually not smell the normal grime of the city when you go in here, which is sort of amazing because medieval middle-aged towns smell like body waste.
And I'm going to say hello to anyone I know along the way, which I imagine is going to be everyone.
Yes.
Small town. Remember?
Small town. Several people bustling along the way.
Likeable email.
You're a nice guy.
Morning blacksmith, morning carpenter, morning peasant, morning,
a few murmurings you hear as you go in. Morning. He's 35. He's not married yet. You have to wonder.
Well, he's still looking for the right girl.
Right, he's babies. Forget that.
And by right, we mean available.
Yeah. And it's very centrally located because essentially there's one main street that goes out of town. And from the gate of the castle, it runs south out of town to the Grand Knights Highway. There is another essentially plaza built around the castle, so there's no buildings that up the castle, but there's essentially a large stone laden street that surrounds the castle, and across from that there are lines of where the buildings start. Most of the buildings of this town are probably between 2 and 3 stories at this part of the town, and they get a little bit shorter as it goes out. There's maybe three or 4 blocks that you can go until you reach the edge of town in any direction.
Okay. So we're talking like, a quarter mile square, basically, real small.
Mm-hmm. And
so I definitely know everybody.
You definitely know everybody. Most people don't actually work in the town. They actually go out to fields outside of the town. Farming or doing types of activities to support farmers. There are a decent number of shops in town. That's essentially all on this road right outside the front gate of the castle because, that's where typically when people visit, they have the most money.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, there's a visitor today. We made more money than we did last month.
Better put our stuff on the main road right to the castle.
So the one nice thing with the location is you do have basic types of all kinds of goods and services in town, but not much of, but it's better than most places where you go that they have next to nothing unless someone comes with it.
So still limited resources though.
Yep.
Good morning. I'm in the bar.
Yeah. You walk in, there are 2 people sitting in there, Fritz and Nortz.
Am I friendly with Fritz and Nortz? Or at least, would it be appropriate for me to greet them? How about that?
It would be more than appropriate to greet them as they are members of the Council of Elders, which we spoke a little bit about before. They're decision makers of the town. They're actually pretty old. They're like in their 60s, which is very old for peasant stuff. Mm-hmm. They don't work much anymore because
they're too old to do it.
They're too old. Their bodies are basically broken at this point. So they sit in and drink in the bar pretty much all day.
And I want to make it a point. I certainly came off a little, smart assy to Yoha, but I wanted that he's earnest with people. So when he's like, "Hi, how are you doing?" all that stuff, like he's earnest about it. Like he genuinely likes people and is likable. So,
but Yoha, you didn't treat like you liked him.
Well, me talking to Yoha, I kind of a little bit of my personality came out in that because I generally do poor with authority. So, and also we've established that he's a jerk and we don't like each other. So, but for Fritz and Nortz, the two council of elders men, I want to greet them genuinely, and also Mary if she's at the bar and be like, "Oh, it's good to see you," that sort of thing. Like, how are you gentlemen doing? And
just a little background for you to understand about Fritz and Nortz.
Okay.
Fritz does not like the castle.
Oh, okay.
Nothing personal, but you suck. Nortz.
Now, the castle and castle folk, like, is he not?
Same thing.
So he doesn't like me because I'm there?
It's nothing personal. You just smell funny.
Okay. Okay. And Nortz?
Nortz is a very amiable sort of. He's definitely. They're definitely both considered wise, which you become on this council because you're considered wise because you're actually elected from the local people.
Okay.
Nortz is considered a wise and a pretty just individual. Fritz is considered not necessarily
opinionated.
Well, he's definitely opinionated. He's not unwise, but it takes him usually a bit longer to get to the conclusion.
Okay.
Unless it's dealing with the castle, in which case, nothing personal, but you suck.
Okay. So, good morning, gentlemen, and I'll make it a point to sidle in the appropriate, walking up to someone to talk to them. Make sure that I'm more towards Nortz than Fritz because I smell funny.
Yeah. Well, came down off of your high castle today.
Well, sometimes they let me down to visit with my betters.
Yes. Very good.
Got
a wife yet?
I'm still working on that. Do you know anyone?
There's the Rufus girl.
The one with the mustache or the one with the big legs?
No. She died. Her ugly sister.
I'm laughing, not the character.
Sally. I think her husband died. Well, he killed himself. She's available.
Good to know.
There'll be a couple in 4 or 5 years if you're still alive,
We should all be so lucky. Mary. Mary, can I talk to you about some resupplying?
Oh, of course.
I need to empty the special stock today.
Okay.
So I've brought the cart.
I believe Ravens is in the back. I'm not positive if Ravens is in the back.
Well, I mean, am I okay to load it? Is it appropriate if I were just to go in back and load it myself?
Usually your stuff is like, there's sort of like 2 levels and he keeps your stuff underground.
Okay.
He locks
that
path. So if it's unlocked, you can get to it. If it's not, and it would not be rude of you to do that.
Okay.
But if it's locked,
let's say this so that we can prevent this conversation every time.
Yep.
If there is an appropriate customary thing, I'm going to do that thing. I'm not, unless otherwise stated. If I'm going to say, listen, I need to get this done, I'm going to cross a line, I'll say so. Otherwise, assume that I'm going to be respectful of other people's space, personalities, and property. Okay. So I'm going to go around back and look for Ravens.
Okay. So you go around back, and normally what you do in this scenario is you look for Ravens. If you do not see him, you go and check on the door. It's usually locked if he's not imminently available.
Right.
And most of the stuff on the outside, basic food stuff that is meant to go inside to the tavern to be used, more what he considers high value stuff or stuff that needs more temperature control goes.
Of course. That makes sense.
And he does lock that area. You walk back there. You do not see him at all. You go check on the door, and it is locked.
I was going to say, of course it's locked. Of course it's locked. This is my first problem to solve.
Hey, this is a role-playing game.
So yeah, if that was too quiet, Jeff said, AKA this is a role-playing game. So you're going to run into problems. Okay. Then assuming I understand the tech level, I assume that there's only the one key and he has it. So Mary probably doesn't have a spare. No. Okay. So look around the general area for ravens. I'm sure I won't find him. Go back up to front and ask Mary where he might be.
You start to go back up front. As you go through, you do see some metal tools that are laying around the door. You have used those. It takes you a little bit, but it's also not what you call a more complex lock. So being intelligent and resourceful, you could probably
I could open it.
And you had to do that in the past.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask Mary first before I do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mary, Ravens isn't back there. Would it be terribly inconvenient if I opened the lock myself?
I'm sure you're very busy. Yeah.
I appreciate your understanding. Take my card back there. Open up the lock. Do I have to use? Yes. Okay. Do I have to, or can I just say I'm going to try it and you decide whether I succeed or not?
You can either or you can say I fail at it and not have the door blow up on you. A failure will happen. The train burned.
I think we're just going to play this game as it's meant to be played and start using stuff. So I'm going to say I'll go with resourceful, and I'm going to try to open the lock.
Okay.
Jeff's going for markers, which scares me a little bit.
Yes. It's very important, and this is a side note to the audience. You need mannerisms to make your players nervous at all times.
Jeff's been a master at this for years, by the way.
Dice are easy because you can start fidgeting with dice, which makes them think that you're about to roll something.
Or as soon as the player goes to do something, you gesture like you're going for the doors, or you just grab the dice and roll them for no particular reason, which Jeff has been doing to me for years. And I'll ask, oh, wait, what was that for? And, oh, nothing, don't worry about it. That's classic. Nothing. Don't worry about it. And then he starts talking again.
Or the good fun was, oh, you don't notice anything. What? I don't notice anything.
You don't. He rolls. There's silence for a moment, and then, oh, okay. You don't notice anything.
It's one of the great tendencies in role-playing games is you can build tensions by playing not only through the story but attacking the psychology of the people you're playing
and playing off the system.
Yes.
I roll my awareness. You don't notice anything, especially when he doesn't roll it. That's even scarier when you say, I roll against my awareness. And he says, no.
You would.
Yeah, you totally wouldn't see it. Nothing. You're not. It looks clear. Okay, so I am using resourceful, and I'm going to try to open the lock.
Okay. You sit there, and you're fidgeting for a few moments. And all of a sudden, you hear a click because you kind of know, like, if you put something flat in the bottom and sort of take something a little bit smaller and keep pushing
fidgeting with it,
up and down, you'll hear clicking and you'll keep checking and you finally get the lock. It takes you a few moments, but you successfully burn through your needed skill and unlock the door.
Excellent. So set the lock aside. Open up. Is it a door or is it like a hatchway?
It is more of a hatch.
Okay, that's what I imagined. Like something in the floor. Yeah. Okay, so I open up the hatch. I assume there's stairs or a ladder. Mm-hmm. Probably stairs because there's going to be a bunch of stuff to carry. Yeah. Okay.
It's actually kind of a little at the base of it and a little bit behind of the structure you're in.
Okay.
This isn't necessarily a huge area. A little bit wider than what you can see.
Okay. So I'm going to go down and find my mark.
There are nothing lit, which is unusual, which means he's probably not been down there all that day.
Okay.
Because it's sort of like going down into your area where
once you get to a point, there's no light.
He'll light up torches and go. The torches have obviously not been lit, and he'll usually leave them lit all day. You'll have the rag burn out over time, and you might have to change them. But as you go down, though, you swear you hear almost like a human groan.
Okay. Well, go back and get something to light. I need to see what's going on down here. So if I imagine there's something quick handy upstairs to light a torch and go down, because that's what he would have to do to light it to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay. So do that process.
Yep. You go up, there's a little barrel with some pitch in there and tar, and you just sort of get a little cloth in there, burn it, light it up on the giant Zippo lighter of fire. Right next to the explosive barrel of fluid. And
wait.
And you start moving down, and Like I said, the one thing that catches your eye as you're moving down and the flames start to sort of lick around the corner it sounds like there's like human groaning down.
Yeah. Well, I'm investigating that, of course.
So you
ravens?
You move down the stairs and you go around and you see ravens flat out on the ground.
Ravens, goodness. Put the torch up on the wall.
You put the torch up on the roll. Give me your skill set here again that's open.
I have intelligence, likable, and organized. Open. I've used resourceful.
Okay. So you swear as you actually move, it's like the shadows actually just kind of recede back into a corner. And it's like sort of more unnaturally dark. Ravens is alive, but he's sort of like in the I'm completely out of it kind of groaning, not really in it kind of phase.
Is he obviously injured?
It looks like something knocked the crap out of him.
Goodness, Ravens. Let's see if I can't get him to his feet.
It's like
I'm not a doctor, so I'm just like, a standing man clearly is in better shape than a lying down man. Okay.
You start trying to pick him up.
I imagine he's probably a stocky, strong guy.
Yeah. I mean, his life is moving stuff.
Yeah, so he's probably a bit stronger and bigger than me.
He's a bit stronger, and you struggle, but he's not conscious.
He's out.
He's out.
Okay.
He's just groaning.
Okay. Would the way the shadows moved?
It was their natural.
Would it? So it would probably scare me, maybe. And is it? Do you think?
I think.
Do you think I would take the
your bigger concern would probably be him? It's kind of like maybe.
Well, right.
Your mind would probably just play it off as in it just.
I just didn't see it. Okay, fine. All right. So if I leave the torch, there's enough light for me to walk back around the corner and then get back. Okay.
So essentially, think of the downstairs. Probably about 12 by 12, something like the room that we're in.
Okay.
With a small, about 6-foot hallway, which is kind of in that hallway is where the stairs go up and down from.
Okay. Go back up and get Mary.
So you go back up, get Mary, and she comes rushing around with Fritz and Nortz because they're there and they hear it. And they come too. They're too old to do anything.
Right.
But,
Mary, Ravens is hurt. He was locked in the cellar.
Just like this. How could he be locked in the cellar?
The cellar. I had to open it. I asked you. I told you I had to open it. He's down there now. He's hurt.
Yeah.
So
the four of you go downstairs, and you actually you notice something very quickly. A sort of disalignment of light sort of moves across barrels coming like literally out of the basement. So essentially, it's like you can see a barrel hole, and then it loses focus and regains focus.
Okay.
Sort of.
Is it like it's coming at me? Like, so would I like back against the wall?
I don't know why you're back against the wall. No, it's more like straight in front of you, though. So it's like you're looking forward, and you see like it's like the light gets misaligned, along the things on the other behind it. So it's almost like something causes the light to distort. And then it clears up within a few seconds. But it does sound like something's walking very quickly, just shuffling at the same time.
Okay. I mean, he's not a combat-oriented character. So
and it would probably be more confusing than anything.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. He's going to chalk it up to more confusion.
I can see you as Mike going,
I'm fighting that. I'm fighting that instinct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So to Ravens.
And a quick AKA insertion note for people there. There was actually something there, and there was something exiting the thing there, and the light distortion was being caused by light bending, which disrupted. There's definitely something there. Michael was doing the correct thing by not. It's
a predator. It's clearly a predator.
Well, you do see 3 dots of light.
Oh, no. I assume that it's either using some form of invisibility or obfuscation to bend light.
It's bending light around itself.
Okay. So to Ravens.
So you go down there. Ravens is knocked out unconscious. Okay. He's actually stopped groaning. You guys kind of feel. And Fred's like, get out of my way, you stupid kids.
Okay.
And, and he's like, he's alive. We're going to need some herbs here, but forget this. You get your wine and go back to your castle. We'll take care of this. Don't you worry.
Should I fetch anyone?
We can handle this ourselves.
Mary?
We'll be fine.
All right.
And which is probably true because where there are people who are healers, they cost money, and most people can't afford that kind of stuff. So they only do that when they get really desperate.
Okay. Well, awkwardly and feeling bad about it, load the wine.
All of the wine is gone.
Oh, no.
And everything else is here. The only thing missing is your wine.
Is it that the casts are there, but they're empty, or the casts are gone?
The casts are gone. Oh, and you probably would have noticed it, but there was a human body in front.
Right. And I assume that did somebody go away to get herbs? Or are there herbs
Not
down
yet.
here? Okay.
They're all still down there.
Mary, I hate to trouble you with this in already a difficult morning, but my wine casts are gone.
Everything's down here that's been down here.
Except my wine casts.
She would not have a clue.
She wouldn't know.
She would not have a clue.
Would Ravens have had any reason to sell them?
Ravens is the kind of person who...
Is that question even appropriate?
That question in your character's mind would be completely inappropriate.
Okay. All right.
The reason you do so much business here
is because I don't have to worry about
your relationship with him.
Fair enough. Okay.
And her.
Then I wouldn't ask that question.
Yeah.
So in the future, if I do say or ask, tell me.
Okay. I would have stopped on you.
Okay. All right. What player GM? What would be another avenue for me to get wine? Would I have to leave town at this point?
There are a few other taverns in town you might be able to get some from. This really hurts your scenario to get wine, especially for 2 nights.
Well, and also the quality level. I assume with this stuff that I had, I imagine it was good for the Duke, but I assume there's no guarantees at the other places.
There's no guarantees that you'll have anything be above house quality in any of the places. There are 2 things that scratch through your little mind.
Yes. Well, I am intelligent.
Yes, and that's why they're scratching through your mind.
Should I use that for a little help here right now?
That would probably
okay, so I'm going to use, standing here being the intelligent man that I am, I'm going to think about my problem. I'm going to contemplate.
You're contemplating, you see Nort's heading up and out to go fetch someone.
All right. Well, I need to grab my cart and go somewhere anyway, so might as well go.
Hey, could you help us carry the body upstairs at least? Says Fritz.
Yeah, absolutely. I offered.
I thought you were too good to help.
No, well, I offered. Heck, Fritz, come on. This is a friend of mine.
If that's the GM laughing, that is not Fritz laughing.
Okay.
He's completely serious.
Well, fine, but I would still say, I offered you were ushering me away. Of course, I'm willing to help. Yeah, he's my friend.
Of course. Yeah. And so you
get his legs.
You grab his upper half.
Because
wife,
Fritz is an old dude.
Yeah. They grab a leg piece and they carry him back upstairs to a bed.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy's up there and she's like, "Oh my goodness!" And she's like, "Mom's like, go to the well and get some water. We have to keep him moist."
Yes, I know. Yeah. She's not a doctor either.
Yes.
keep the man moist.
And so you go upstairs to take care of that. And come back downstairs and go grab your cart. And you have a couple options that have kind of gone through your noggin as you were intelligently going through your options. One would be reserve some of the really good wine for really good wine. And that's what goes strictly to the Duke's table. Take house wine, cut it in with some of the other good wine to help create more wine. However, you'll end up going through more of your stash. So you'd probably want to stock up on common wine at this point.
Basically, at this point, I'm shooting for...
And you're actually skilled enough where you can... through tasting
I could work
mixing,
it. Yeah.
You could actually make a slightly better quality wine by mixing. It won't be as good as the good wine. But you also probably have the experience to know that most of the lords who come in
probably won't know anyway.
You could probably serve them common table wine, and they probably wouldn't know.
Okay,
and you've actually done that.
So at this point, I'm shooting for
wine
quantity,
yeah. And
I'm going to fudge quality as best I can.
Yeah,
okay.
And You can get that a little bit quicker by going to some of the other shops in town to pick up some of the wine.
I'm still going to shoot for a better quality, whatever they got, and we're going to use that as best we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and if we're going to be cutting with table wine, then I think I'm going to go for something sweeter as best I can, like a red Moscato or.
As you're heading back out,
actually, that would be a pretty. If I'm going to be mixing with like a house wine, which would probably be like, like just a Merlot or just like some sort of Chianti, then getting like a red Moscato would be a good thing to cut in there lightly because it's sweeter, which would lend itself to a cleaner, a better tasting wine as opposed to just a generic, drier red.
Sure, I'll believe that. Okay.
Michael knows a thing or two about wine.
So, as you're coming back out of the castle, you've probably opted to leave the wagon here until you can locate stuff.
Okay,
probably just have it need to get moved to the castle at this point.
Well, you said castle. Do you mean leaving Little Fishes?
Well, I'm assuming you left Little Fishes. You're taking the cart back over to the castle.
No, I was going to another vendor with the cart
probably at this point will leave the cart at the castle because mobility becomes more important and you have to pay a little bit more and just have them bring it over for you.
How much time have I got?
You have all day, but you also have to blend wine, and that's not an instantaneous thing either.
True. But if the Duke's coming, I don't like the idea of the wine being unsupervised.
Remember, his stuff, as far as you know, is secure in the basement.
Oh, no, but whatever I'm going to purchase to mix might end up in the Duke's mouth. So I want to be...
Probably not.
Probably not.
You would probably reserve at least one of the good casks strictly for him just to ensure that no one...
And who is the guy who's actually in the castle? He's not a Duke, right? Or that's who we're talking about. Who's visiting?
The Duke is visiting.
The Duke's visiting.
It's his castle.
And
there's no lords that live in this castle.
So when the Duke's not there, it's just servants?
It's just servants.
Oh, I was under the impression that there... So when you... prior to this session, Jeff and I talked a lot about the characters. This Duke is the one who's kind of down to earth. Mm-hmm. Okay. I thought he lived there.
No, he does not. Okay. He does not live here.
Okay. Okay. That clears up what I need to know.
Like, usually at least once a month, there is someone there, either from the Duke's household, traveling back and forth, seeking hospitality from the Duke.
So whether it be a friend, a family member, or a high-level servant.
Or someone traveling, not a high-level servant.
No, there wouldn't be like someone,
they might come with servants.
A steward from his place coming for any, no?
Unless the steward is with a lord, they would doubtfully be staying. Now, they might be staying in the quarters of like the steward himself, but not officially in the castle.
Okay. Okay. Well, then I will do what you're saying that I should probably do.
Would never allow that.
Yeah. So I'm going to go order some wine from the other bars, go back to the castle, and wait for it.
Okay.
And I'm going to start taking stock of what I do have, what I can mix, and what I can save.
Okay. So you go back down. You open up your little closet of good stuff. Empty. And the lock on your door is a lock. The lock on the other thing
is like bubblegum.
Yeah, it's like it makes you feel good. You know that there's something that has to turn. Mm-hmm. This is actually a couple.
I got a pretty serious lock on it.
So for the time, this is sort of you didn't go cheap on the lock.
Okay.
It takes a serious key to get into the store.
Okay.
And there is no wine.
So there's no good wine for me to mix it.
None.
Crap. Is there, having gone to the other bars, was there any quality wine coming? Like, was I able to get any quality wine?
You like your Duke?
Keeping in mind that those bar owners find me likable.
Yeah.
And know that I'm in a little bit of a jam.
You could probably definitely get some to get through at least a day, as long as there aren't too many real lords there.
Right.
But your bigger concern being you're now going to stuff outside of your control.
Yeah, I know. I'm very concerned about that.
And you're probably also very concerned on what.
Yeah.
Where's your stuff?
Yeah. So I'm going to have to go talk to Yoha. I'm going to have to go talk to the chief steward.
So you start moving up towards the chief steward. It's kind of going through your brain.
Yeah.
It's starting to feel almost personal.
But at the same time, it should be personal to the Duke because he's been robbed.
Oh, yes. This is technically the Duke's wine.
Yeah.
He's obviously been robbed. But it feels personal against you because, one,
I'm responsible for it.
You're responsible for this, and your main stash is gone, which is probably where you'd probably have better extra wine as well,
right,
too.
In the castle.
You probably have a few little stashes of good wine throughout the town. So between that and the other bars, you feel you could probably acquire enough wine for at least a day of decent wine. Not quite the caliber you'd prefer, but definitely better than normal house wine.
Right.
But the bigger concern is, how does someone get in the castle, into the basement, and through the store? You are the only person that has that key. The steward does not have a key to this room.
Okay.
By his rights, he could, but he's actually very respectful of you and your duties.
Would I go to the steward, or would I go to captain of the guard? Is there a captain of the guard?
There is a captain of the guard here.
Okay, I'm going to go.
There's a small garrison. You would probably go to the steward too because you won't want.
I'm sure I would.
To be informed.
But what would be more appropriate? Who would I go to first?
Well, that's probably the chief steward because he's in charge. Ultimately, he's in trouble too.
Okay. But I'm also thinking that we have a security problem,
But we also have a security problem. But the Duke's also not here right now.
Okay.
If the Duke was here, you'd probably deal with the security first.
Okay. All right. And then Yoha.
We'll probably cut off here as you struggling to pull your wine resources together.
And save the conflict for the next episode.
And we will save the new conflict for the next episode. You're left walking away in the scenario scene. Fritz come charging into the castle courtyard as you're walking out to talk to him and say, "Where's Nortz? Did he come with you?"
No. I came back alone.
Dun, dun, dun. And as always, make sure to go to gardul.com. That's GARDUL.com for the show notes. It'll be under podcasting, World Builders Anvil. That's a great place to get all of the information from the episode that you've just listened to and to see all the resources that we've talked about in this episode. Thanks for joining us in this episode of the World Builders Anvil. Please be sure to rate and review us in iTunes, and please help get the word out to your friends about our show. And join me, Jeffrey W. Ingram at Gardul.com, to see the progress of my world and learn why I made the choices I did. And please contact me and let me know the topics you would love to hear in the future. Now strike while the myth rolls high.